8.
Tuesday, June 17, 9 a.m. inside Courtroom 14 of the Los Angeles County Courthouse. The 24th proceeding in the ongoing federal inquiry into Sean Diddy Combs officially kicked off in a setting that appeared routine and still. Nobody could have foreseen that only half an hour later, this very chamber would explode into the center of one of the most unpredictable legal disruptions in the history of American showbiz law. That's when Jennifer Lopez, the leading Latin entertainment icon, shockingly turned into the direct target of an urgent court-ordered detainment that was initiated mid-hearing. The session that day was presided over by Judge Miles Radford, a veteran of many high-profile Hollywood courtroom sagas. As per initial arrangements, Jennifer was present merely as a supplemental witness, walking in discreetly at 8:50 a.m., outfitted in all black, her face hidden behind dark glasses, and offering no words to the journalists gathered outside. Everything stayed on track until 9:24 a.m., when a shielded informant referred to only as Ms. D for security reasons appeared via secure video link from an unknown place. In a heavy and unbearably tense atmosphere, she began her statement, voice shaking but words distinct and solid. She alleged that the person who invited her wasn't solely Diddy, but Jennifer Lopez herself, who, per the witness, had full knowledge of the arrangement beforehand, made the phone call herself, lied saying it was an exclusive get-together, and then personally walked her into the area where horrifying things unfolded. She even claimed Jennifer had complete awareness of where every hidden camera was located. Silence consumed the courtroom. The typist froze mid-sentence. Prosecutors gave each other alarmed looks. A juror stood up from her chair in visible shock. Jennifer Lopez stayed seated, her expression unreadable, but behind her dark glasses, her eyes shifted repeatedly toward the left side of the courtroom. Just 3 minutes into the testimony, Judge Radford slammed his gavel and instantly suspended all courtroom activity. Then he calmly read out the warrant. Based on the witness testimony and supporting information cataloged in Appendix B-27, this court issues a temporary detainment order for Jennifer Lopez to investigate possible involvement in planning coercive behavior and the illegal use of surveillance to mentally threaten the alleged victim. This order was to be acted on immediately. Courtroom security advanced from either end, but before they reached her, Jennifer rose, took off her shades, stepped slightly backward, glanced quickly at her 2 lawyers, and switched off her mobile device right in front of them. She then calmly turned and walked toward the private exit, marked for court personnel off limits to the public. According to insider reports, she briskly moved through the ground floor service route and was last spotted at 9:32 a.m. entering a rear parking space, where a silver-gray SUV with no license tags waited. Surveillance images showed the driver, with their entire face concealed by cap and mask identity, unconfirmed. The vehicle pulled off in less than half a minute, driving out of courthouse limits at a high rate of speed, running through 3 traffic lights, and disappearing from all cameras exactly 6 minutes later, leaving no trace. At 10:12 a.m. that same day, a state-level arrest order was processed. The FBI then officially assumed control of the investigation under priority status due to concerns Jennifer Lopez had either been warned in advance or already crafted an exit plan the moment her name got mentioned. Meanwhile, all of her online profiles went silent. With no updates since June 14, her PR representatives refused all media questions and held total radio silence. One court officer present that morning said in an internal briefing, "She moved like someone who knew the layout by heart. No fear, no pause. This wasn't random, it was calculated." What disturbed the public most wasn't just how cleanly she disappeared in daylight, but what the testimony implied. If Jennifer truly had knowledge about the cameras, knew about the sedatives, and still led the woman into that room, then she wasn't just a celebrity loosely connected, but a key player in a system built on baiting, monitoring, and blackmailing women through video-based intimidation. The trial was immediately halted, with no end date. Defense lawyers argued firmly, but nothing could change the fact that the courtroom had now shifted from civil litigation into a criminal federal case. At 10:48 a.m., Judge Radford exited without any closing words. A written notice was left behind. The court acknowledges the possibility of coordinated evasion and systematic wrongdoing in today's actions. All records involving Jennifer Lopez will now be handled under Class B felony procedures according to federal law. Outside, the press went wild. Jennifer's supporters split in two. Some dismissed the claims, calling them politically charged attacks, while others expressed heartbreak, naming it the biggest scar in women's entertainment activism. A local News reporters' question echoed around the courthouse steps. If someone as world-famous as Jennifer Lopez can disappear seconds after an arrest warrant is read, how many others have already done the same and walked away untouched? It began subtly, an almost invisible shift in public presence that many dismissed as personal choice or career fatigue. Jennifer Lopez, a name synonymous with Hollywood glamour and global stardom, began to retreat. Not loudly, not dramatically, but with precise, measured moves. Most of her private assets were quietly funneled into offshore entities, effectively shielding them from standard financial visibility. Public appearances became rare. Scheduled international tour dates were cancelled with no explanation offered to fans or media outlets. Her once bold presence on social media dwindled, and in its place came sporadic, carefully curated content with little insight into her real life. What was once a light-drenched career began transforming into a shadowy silhouette. But perhaps the most telling sign of all was her legal transformation. She dismantled her long-standing team of agents, publicists, and legal advisors, figures who had stood beside her through decades of public life, and replaced them with a new, far more specialized team. This wasn't your usual entertainment law firm. It was a group primarily known for its work in cybercrime, online harassment, and national investigations. The message was clear. Jennifer wasn't just rebranding. She was armoring up. When briefly asked about this dramatic shift during a short red carpet interview in late 2023, she smiled softly and said, "I'm transitioning into a more low-key era of my profession. It's time to focus inward." It seemed innocent, even admirable. Many celebrities, after decades of fame, choose a quieter path. But in light of what's recently come to surface, that statement may not have been about reflection. It may have been about evasion, a well-planned exit from the forefront, designed to prepare for an oncoming storm, according to an internal federal report recently leaked by investigative journalists. Jennifer Lopez's name has surfaced not just once, but multiple times, in connection with high-profile criminal investigations into Diddy Combs, while Diddy himself has been under scrutiny for months due to allegations of abuse, trafficking, and exploitation. What's new and utterly damning is the role some claim Jennifer played in orchestrating parts of this hidden world. The report identifies two individuals currently under federal investigation. Both have stated, under sworn testimony, that Jennifer Lopez was responsible for curating exclusive guest lists for private gatherings hosted by Diddy. She allegedly handpicked attendees, particularly women, who matched certain criteria: looks, behavior, vulnerability. The claim is not just that she helped organize the events, but that she facilitated them in such a way that shielded their darker purpose beneath a surface of glitz, opportunity, and celebrity access. One of the testimonies, referred to in the report as Witness D, describes Jennifer's role as central, saying she wasn't a bystander or someone who didn't know. She was in the loop, deeply. According to this witness, Jennifer wasn't simply invited, she was involved in the planning, the vetting, and the structuring of these events. If this account is found reliable in court, it will mark a pivotal turning point. No longer speculation. No longer tabloid chatter. Confirmation. This would shift Jennifer Lopez from being perceived as a distant figure associated by name, to an alleged architect within a framework of manipulation, control, and abuse, one fueled by fame, alcohol, performance, and, perhaps most chillingly, surveillance. Multiple insiders have hinted that these exclusive events weren't just lavish parties, were strategic setups, carefully curated atmospheres where boundaries blurred and privacy vanished. The idea that these events were recorded through hidden devices placed in dressing rooms, lounges, and VIP areas has sparked further concern. According to the report, evidence is being cross-referenced from over 35 recorded events between 2018 and 2022. Federal authorities are said to be working with digital forensic experts to verify the footage. The goal, to determine who knew what, and when. Jennifer Lopez's public silence over the past decade, once admired as grace, now reads as something different, calculated, strategic, and perhaps motivated by fear. Section 4 of the internal report, titled Operational Frameworks of Private Events, provides a detailed breakdown of how these gatherings functioned. It outlines a pattern. Celebrities were lured with offers of exposure, newcomers were invited with promises of collaboration, and high-profile guests were reassured by the star-studded surroundings. Everything seemed legitimate until guests were separated. Every function reportedly followed a dual-zone format. The outer zone was open, vibrant, and press. There were cocktails, live performances, celebrity interactions, and select media allowed to capture just enough footage to make it all appear innocent. But then there was the inner zone. This inner section was more restricted, often guarded by security with strict no-phone policies. Guests would be required to leave their devices in lockers or with designated personnel before entering. Staff access was limited. Cameras were disguised. And it was in these spaces, according to witness testimony, that the most serious allegations originate. 3 former event staffers, who were employed at Diddy's private estates and venues between 2018 and 2020 to have spoken anonymously under the protection of federal whistleblower laws. All 3 confirm that Jennifer Lopez was actively present and involved during several key events. One of them described her as overseeing parts of the inner zone. Another claimed she interacted with Diddy's legal and technical crew, and the third stated that she knew when certain guests would be isolated for private sessions. These claims, if verified, unravel the carefully woven image Jennifer Lopez has spent decades cultivating: the empowering Latina superstar, the self-made icon, the global performer. Instead, we may be looking at a figure who used her power and status to help construct a seductive, elite-controlled system designed not to uplift but to exploit. What makes this even more complex is the timing. Jennifer's increasing distance from Hollywood, her quiet legal restructuring, and her strategic silence all coincide with the first rumblings of legal scrutiny aimed at Diddy. Some investigators believe this was no coincidence at all. Rather, it was the beginning of a calculated retreat, a preemptive distancing to minimize exposure. For over 10 years, whispers about strange afterparties, unusually strict phone policies, and guests leaving events in distress circulated online, but they were always dismissed. Who would believe something so dark could happen so close to the glittering lights of Hollywood royalty? But now, the tide is shifting. As more testimonies surface, as more records are decrypted, as more victims come forward, what was once brushed off as gossip is rapidly taking the shape of a criminal case. And at the center of it, investigators are finding threads that consistently lead back to one name: Jennifer Lopez. This doesn't necessarily mean she was the mastermind, but it strongly suggests complicity, that she knew more than she let on, that she was not only aware of what happened behind those velvet curtains, but that she helped organize the stage itself. One of the more disturbing allegations involves claims that certain guests were drugged without consent and later pressured into silence with the threat of exposure using footage from hidden cameras. The legal team pursuing this angle is reportedly focusing on uncovering who had access to that footage and who benefited from its use. If Jennifer Lopez is found to be among them, even peripherally, the consequences could be if not criminal. As of now, no formal charges have been filed against her. Her team has refused to comment. All requests for interviews have been denied. Her last public appearance was 6 months ago, a small charity event in Miami, where she avoided press questions altogether. But silence doesn't it assist. In fact, in the absence of transparency, the questions only grow louder. Why did she remove herself from the spotlight so abruptly? Why the sudden legal shift? And what exactly did she know about what was happening at those gatherings? In the world of fame, silence is often seen as a shield. But in the world of law, silence can become a signal a gap investigators will dig into until answers emerge. The public, once dazzled by her elegance and charm, is beginning to look past the surface. And what they might find is not just a woman choosing peace but a woman protecting secrets. The glamour is fading. The headlines are shifting. And now, with federal pressure mounting and witness testimonies stacking up, Jennifer Lopez may soon have no choice but to speak. Because this time, it's not about brand deals, albums, or red carpets. It's about justice. In what federal investigators are now calling one of the most intricate and disturbing entertainment industry operations in recent memory, several layers of a covert system have begun to unravel. Access to recording tools had been deliberately disabled in specific zones, and soft, continuous background noise was intentionally played throughout the premises to obstruct any unauthorized sound capture. This wasn't accidental, it was design. According to the testimony of a former floor manager assigned to oversee guest placement and visual monitoring, this manipulation took place within an inner setting deliberately shielded from scrutiny. It was here beyond velvet curtains and guarded doors that guests, particularly women, were subtly sorted before being granted access to upper floors and more secluded rooms. This process, as corroborated by multiple sources including a key witness known publicly only as Witness D and several former security employees, reveals an uncomfortable truth. Pop culture icon Jennifer Lopez, long revered as a global symbol of empowerment and success, was not just present, she was involved. In fact, according to those same testimonies, Lopez regularly arrived at these venues before official start times. She was seen reviewing guest lists, specifically the names and backgrounds of young women who had been invited. Notably, she had what insiders described as advisory clearance, which gave her the authority to override decisions and, in some cases, personally select who could move into the so-called VIP areas. The atmosphere was sold as exclusive, luxurious, and safe, but behind the glitter was a calculated effort to disarm. Lopez, known publicly for her emphasis on inclusion, confidence, and Latina pride, was said to have leveraged her charm and star power to present an aura of comfort and credibility. A former guard stationed at a Florida venue disclosed a chilling interaction during one such gathering. Lopez was reportedly in an observation booth, one that displayed extra camera feeds, not available to the general security team, when a minor technical glitch drew the guard's attention. As he worked to resolve the issue, Lopez allegedly glanced at him and with a faint grin, whispered, "You didn't see anything today, right?" At the time, he brushed it off as a misread or a nervous joke. But following Witness D's statement and the launch of a broader federal investigation, that same guard came forward with an 11-page sworn account submitted to authorities. What has truly startled investigators is the realization that not all of these controversial gatherings were hosted by Diddy or other high-profile names directly. In fact, many of the smaller-scale elite nights were arranged by seemingly independent entertainment firms. But beneath the surface, all trails led to a discreet financial syndicate based out of Nassau County, New York, a hub of shell companies and leased offices. Federal documentation shows Jennifer Lopez maintained a private business office within one such building from 2017 to 2020. Notably, this time frame matches the period in which Lopez publicly declared she was stepping back from touring and large-scale performances to focus on personal projects that remain largely undisclosed. The FBI has since begun seizing digital evidence, including data recovered from a storage disk once used by a former stage crew technician responsible for lighting and camera placement during these secretive events. Among the recovered files were 2 encrypted audio recordings. One particularly disturbing clip featured a female voice asserting, "Let me handle this talk in private. I know how to convince her." Preliminary analysis by national audio experts has revealed an 80% plus match to Jennifer Lopez's known vocal signature, based on public interviews and recordings from 2021. Even more damning is that the metadata tied to the audio coincides with a party held at a private estate in Calabasas, an event where Witness D was confirmed to have been present. One of the more volatile revelations from the legal findings is that Lopez may not have simply participated in these gatherings. She may have served as the primary connection between influential guests and the production teams facilitating the events. According to multiple testimonies, she acted as the psychological gateway. Her presence brought comfort, excitement, and legitimacy. Young attendees, many aspiring singers, dancers, or influencers, felt an almost surreal sense of privilege upon being acknowledged by a woman they had long idolized. This comfort, however, was a tactic. It lowered their defenses, made them more compliant, and less likely to resist once they were funneled deeper into the secluded zones. This naturally raises a deeply troubling question. Was Jennifer Lopez herself being manipulated by higher forces, or was she orchestrating the entire mechanism? One seasoned legal analyst, speaking under anonymity, offered a chilling perspective. When people think of Diddy, they think dominance, wealth, and brute power. With Jennifer, it's different. It's poise, emotional calculation, and strategic influence. That's what makes her more dangerous. People don't suspect her. Until recently, such theories were limited to conspiracy forums and speculative podcasts. But now, those once dismissed whispers are being pieced together with concrete evidence: seized electronics, insider testimony, financial documents, and surveillance reviews. What investigators fear the most is not that these events happened in isolation, but that they were replicated, refined, and protected by individuals long regarded as national and global treasures. If the emerging evidence continues to hold, Jennifer Lopez may face not merely association with misconduct but could be charged as a key figure in a well-funded, methodically run enterprise. An enterprise where dreams of fame, music, and opportunity were weaponized as bait, drawing victims into an environment from which there was no safe return. Section 5. The Legal Directive and Immediate Aftermath. The evening of June 17, mere hours after Jennifer Lopez exited a Los Angeles courthouse through a secured back passage, she vanished. Without notice or record, she disappeared from all observable law enforcement databases. That same night, the Los Angeles Police Department elevated the search to a full state alert, issuing a Priority 3 detention order. The directive requested immediate support from federal and regional law enforcement branches across states where Lopez owned properties or had known affiliations. By 8 p.m., the FBI had taken the reins of the case. They deployed their celebrity surveillance unit, the same elite team previously used in high-profile cases involving R. Kelly and Ghislaine Maxwell. A formal federal capture order was signed and circulated internally, complete with extensive identifiers: Hispanic female, age 54. Possibly traveling via chartered flights under aliases tied to known shell entities. Her name was flagged across all domestic and international aviation checkpoints. Within 10 hours of losing her trail, Homeland Security confirmed that Jennifer Lopez had been reclassified as a top-level federal subject, a label usually reserved for fugitives accused of large-scale organized crimes and systemic human rights violations. Simultaneously, her digital presence was put under full surveillance. Social media platforms began quietly disabling her accounts. Access to her digital wallet and payment lines was suspended. 4 of her real estate holdings, in Beverly Hills, Miami Beach, Manhattan, and Puerto Rico, were placed under watch. Meanwhile, West Coast private jet operators were ordered to submit flight manifests from the prior 48 hours, despite the rapid mobilization. Lopez's absence ignited a firestorm among her massive global following. On platforms like X, Instagram, and TikTok, fans demanded transparency and dismissed the investigation as an elaborate takedown of America's most celebrated Latina icon. Hashtags such as #FreeJLO and #WeSupportJennifer went viral, even as law experts advised the public to reserve judgment until all evidence was disclosed. In under 48 hours, a petition urging Jennifer Lopez to address the public directly gained over 250,000 signatures. Lopez's legal team offered no public statements, only a short note issued via internal channels: "We are dealing with it." Simultaneously, U.S. officials filed international cooperation requests through mutual legal assistance treaties, suspecting she may have fled to non-extradition nations, like the UAE, or the Maldives regions where she previously performed and maintains high-level contacts. A confidential FBI note contained a single alarming phrase stamped in red: "Subject shows advanced evasion strategy, must consider active assistance from industry and banking elites." The ripple effects were immediate. All promotional projects tied to her name were suspended indefinitely. Streaming giant Netflix, which had been co-producing a biographical series on Jennifer Lopez's life, announced a full halt. Inside Hollywood, posters of her latest films and campaigns still hang, but studios and labels have begun quietly distancing themselves behind closed doors. The entertainment world is bracing for what could become its most devastating reckoning yet. Jennifer Lopez, once adored as a trailblazing performer, a mother, and a cultural beacon, may now be remembered very differently, as the enigmatic face of a system built not on fame, but on exploitation disguised as opportunity.